Human Nature, a journey in search of a peaceful and prosperous society with human nature as a guide. Led by your host, Adam Heyman.
Hello, welcome to Human Nature. I am Adam Heyman. With me, as always, my buddy Tyrone. How you doing, man?
I'm feeling just right.
I see what you did there. All right. Now that you've alluded to it, what are we talking about today?
All right, everybody, let's get metaphysical. All right, we're gonna talk a little philosophy. We're gonna dive into a little bit of metaphysics today, but a little bit of a fun way. When I said we're just right, kind of reminds you of the old Goldilocks fairy tale, how she was searching for something that was just right, and reminds me of an article you wrote, Adam, a while back, a few months ago, titled "Goldilocks is a Criminal and There Are No Dials," with the subtitle "A Rant Against the Notion of a Finely Tuned Universe." Now, Adam, Goldilocks was a sweet little girl. What do you mean she's a criminal? You old misogynistic old fart.
Yeah, I'm proud of this one. I don't do this normally, folks, but I'm going to read from my own article because I'm so proud of my very second paragraph. You remember Goldilocks from the children's story, right? Troubled youth commits a B&E on a peaceful family of bears, goes on to steal some porridge. One bowl is too hot, one too cold, one just right. Tries to go to sleep during the home invasion. One bed is too hard, one too soft, one just right. Then the bears come home and eat the girl, and justice prevails. I may be misremembering that story when I wrote that.
Wow, that's the original Grimm's Brothers version, right?
Before Disney bought it and perverted it, that was the original story. It's from the old world. Things were a lot messier. Yeah, but I was talking about what's referred to as the Goldilocks universe, which is a way of describing the seemingly miraculous fact that the cosmological constants, I should have a list of them here, but the charge of an electron, all the weird aspects of our universe that
speed of light.
Speed of light is for sure one. Like that. You can look them up, folks. But physicists and cosmologists will say it just seems so weird that these dials seem to have been set in such a precise way, such that if they'd been any other way that we can imagine them, the universe wouldn't have formed to begin with, or it would have, the Big Bang would have just continued on forever in a nanosecond and nothing would have formed. So anyway, it's this notion that leads them to call our universe a Goldilocks one, in which the conditions were such that life could come into being and we could sit here and have podcasts and things like that.
Right. And it's full of porridge.
So much porridge. Thank goodness.
In Andromeda, man, it's filled with porridge. Come on.
If Elon could figure out a way to get to the porridge galaxy,
that'd be awesome.
Our cup and bowl will runneth over.
All right, so Adam, all right, great. We live in a Goldilocks society. That sounds awesome. What's wrong with that?
Well, there's a few things. For one thing, it's goofy to think that the universe has dials and that they could have been twiddled by some godlike figure. We only exist in one universe. As far as we know, there's no way the charge on an electron could have been anything other than what it was, or that the speed of light could have been anything. It's such lazy thinking that, I mean, I know there's more to it than this, but it's almost like, okay, we calculate the speed of light and we measure it and we talk about it, and that's a number, right? Well, I can imagine other numbers. So I guess the speed of light could have been a different number, right? Well, no. We only can see that these things they're called cosmological constants. What makes you think they could have been something else? What does that even mean? It conjures up either a god who's fiddling with the structure of the universe or the initial start conditions, the parameters of a universe, or it conjures up an intuition of multiple universes, an infinite series of universes. And I think that while those are fun ideas, there's absolutely no reason to believe in either one. And part of that confusion is why we think these constants could have been, quote unquote, something else. I think that's a goofy way to think about it. And I know I'm right, because that's why Marvel's cinematic multiverse sucks so bad. And why we got something called, what was it called? Spider Ham? Peter Porker?
Peter Porker.
I know I'm right, because that whole concept is an abomination before the Lord.
Yes, don't get me started on multiverses. Lost and multiverses are forbidden topics in my household. Could not agree with you more. Multiverse is the laziest writing. I mean, so there's a concept in writing called Deus Ex Machina, right? Or I mean, well, sorry, everybody knows Deus Ex Machina. It's used in a lot of varieties, right? But in writing, what we mean by Deus Ex Machina is the hero is in some impossible situation. He's trapped. His back's up against the wall. He's facing a million enemies that are about to kill him. Like, he's dead. But then all of a sudden, some supernatural power comes down, or a B-52 flies in and drops a bomb, right? Something from the heavens, something like out of the blue with super power or strength comes along and rescues him, kills all the enemies and saves him, or something like that. It's just sloppy writing, because the writers wrote a plot that took the character in a certain direction and led them to a dead end point where they're like, oh crap, we can't kill off the lead character. Now we gotta just save him somehow, right? We either have to rewrite the whole story or just pluck him out of the situation. Well, that's what multiverses do, right? You can kill your hero, but then guess what? He's not really dead. You just go to another universe, find the same guy, bring him back to yours, whatever, swap-a-roo. It's like so death becomes irrelevant, right? There's no consequences to the action, because if you screw up this universe, well, you can just jump to the next one, where it's the Rick and Morty thing, right? Rick will destroy the earth and be like, well, I'm done with this universe, let's go to the next one. Right now, that works in comedy, but in serious fiction, it's a cheap, lazy way out.
Yeah, before Rick and Morty and the Marvel lazy universe thing, which they did in the comic books. I mean, in the 70s, even. It's not like it was the movies that made that up. But before that, you'd see it in those old cliffhanger series. Probably originated in radio, but I first saw them on TV,
Right.
where, just as you said, at the end of an episode, the hero's just doomed.
Right.
And then next week, the beginning of the next one, some miracle occurred. Oh, there's a trap door in the mine shaft or something.
Who shot JR? Nobody. Right. Nobody did. Nobody.
As far as laziest script writing tool, I'm torn. There's that one, but there's also the amnesia one and the twin one that you'd see in like these soap operas.
The twin, the long lost twin. Everybody forgot it. Didn't even know existed. You kill the main character, bring in the twin, they take the place, and the show goes on.
It's so lazy. But we teased that this whole show wasn't about children's stories or bad writing on soap operas and comic books, but it's about metaphysics. So
metaphysics.
Yeah. So what do you think my assertion leads us to conclude metaphysically?
That's right. So, as your article references, for most people, this leads them down the path to religion. For most people, they say, wow, look at this universe. It's a 1 in quadrillionth chance that all of these exact right things came into play. The earth is just the right distance from the sun. The sun's not too hot, not too cold. It's just right. Right. It's impossible that this happened just by accident or naturally or whatever. There must be what's called the intelligent designer, right? Just intelligent design theory. Someone put this together. That's where the Goldilocks metaphor leads most people. And what you're saying, Adam, is that this is a logical fallacy. Of course it is, but why don't you respond to that?
Yeah, real quick. It's almost a chicken and egg thing here, but like the first scientists who started discovering that there were cosmological constants most of them were probably Christians, right? So in the
Sure.
back of their mind, there is a all-powerful God who could have
Okay.
set these dials in a different way. And then in a more modern sense, there's a lot of things about the way physicists think about these cosmological constants, these quote unquote dials that reinforce the religious stories. I mean, the Big Bang is a literal act of creation. I mean, it's
Right.
pretty easy if you're a Christian apologist to use that as a, yeah, what's what we've been saying the whole time. Let there be a light. Well, that's what that was. So yeah, I think you're right. I just think that that it was embedded in the idea for these concepts right at the beginning because these physicists were Christians.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I also want to point people back to the episode you did with Michael Humer, the
Mm.
interview you did. Michael Humer has some interesting thoughts on the metaphysics of the universe. One of his being that time is infinite in both directions. That's an interesting take on some things. Uh, be- where do you fall down with? Well, here, let me just put it this way. Uh, the universe exists. We live in it. It has the right conditions for whatever life we have. Okay. So what? It doesn't prove anything else other than it exists. It has the right conditions for the life that exists within it. Yeah. There's no way you can logically go from a fact of reality to some to a god that you could never see. I'm not saying that right. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that Michael Humer infinite time thing is part. He uses that to buttress an argument he makes for. We talked about this before. I can't remember, but he believes in reincarnation.
Hmm.
And a huge part of his belief structure is infinite time and running in both directions. And
Right.
then I think it's a call to a multiverse sort of a thing with infinite time, infinite. I can't
Well,
follow it.
I think it goes back to, I doubt he would say this, but the atomists of ancient Greece, where we get the word atom from, they believe that whatever world we're in, whatever universe we're in, comes into existence, dies, and then another one is born. So it's not exactly a multiverse in the sense that there are multiple universes living side by side in some sort of parallel dimension or something like that. It's that the universe dies, born. Like so again, you can think of the universe expands, then everything collapses and it expands again and collapses. And each time it does that, a different iteration happens. So you have an infinite amount of universes, just they don't happen at the same time. So if time goes infinite in both directions, you can see how it would have to repeat eventually. And so that's where I think Michael Humer comes up with
No,
his
that's a good.
reincarnation idea.
Yeah, I don't know if he would sign off on what you
Yeah,
just said
I
either,
don't want to put words in his mouth. I'm
but
not
it's
gonna.
good enough, and it leads me to my next point, which is that we believe things, and then it leads us to screw up our intuitions in all sorts of goofy ways. We don't have any good reason to believe that infinite, as a concept that applies to anything in the real universe, is a thing. Infinite is just an idea we had. And to say that applies to our universe, that's just an assertion. We don't have any reason to believe that. Just like we don't have any reason to believe that time runs in both directions. Why? Because we have equations that we think mean something, and there's a letter T, and we can put a negative on that. That doesn't tell us anything about the real world. The map is not the territory. And I think we do this a lot. Like, because we have this idea in our head of an all powerful God, therefore, when we see a speed of light, we imagine that it could have been something else. One intuition is screwing up another one.
Right.
I think we need to be really careful about these assumptions that we make and what the tiny glimpses of evidence that we are able to figure out what those necessarily lead to. I think we run off on all sorts of into all sorts of rabbit holes that are unwarranted and unjustified. And if we just checked our assumptions to begin with and the reason that we have for thinking the things we believe, I think we I think we'd realize that the multiverse, for example, is just utter nonsense.
So I think Popeye had it right, and I think he solved it.
I am what I am.
I am what I am. I think if we just adhere to that, we won't have any of this other nonsense that's going on. Look, there is no other possibility that I could be what I am. If you say, well, the genes could have interacted in a different way, okay, then I would be a different person. I wouldn't be me. So to say there's other possibilities isn't right. Because once I come into existence, I'm the only possibility that there ever was.
I think
You don't necessarily know that ahead of time, but you know it after the fact. Anyway, sorry, Adam, what were you going to say?
No, I was cutting you off. I'm sorry. I think there's something about our species that has a big problem with just letting it go at I don't know the answer to this.
That's it. That's it.
I think we've talked about this before, but I mean, part of the reason we invent gods is to close the loop and tell ourselves a story of why that earthquake happened or why that lightning happened. And the other, even more important psychological need to create that God is so that you're just not at the whim of some cold and impersonal universe. You can, if there's a God, he's got thoughts and feelings and hopes and he's interested in you, well, then you can try and give him a banana and see if that'll make him not hit you with lightning or make it rain or prevent the storm from just, ripping your village to shreds. So there's something deeply embedded in our species that just won't let us say, yeah, we don't have any reason to make any more guesses about the nature of the universe. I've got 50 million hypotheses, but I don't have really good evidence for any of them. And that's okay. So few of us are okay just leaving it there. We don't know yet.
Yeah. Man, the thing that really kind of, okay, I would say it drives me nuts if I cared more about it. I don't. But the thing I think that just, I don't know, irks me the wrong way, or these ID guys, these intelligent design folks, they spend a lot of time trying to prove, whether it's through math or something else, that God exists. And yet the whole religion, at least Christianity, sorry, I can't speak for other religions more intelligently than the Christian one. So I apologize. I'm just going to speak for that one. It says, it literally says you can't know. You have to take it on faith. Just take my word for it that this is true. And if my understanding is, if you're a Christian, you should just accept that. And yet these intelligent design guys seem like hell bent to like be able to prove something. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense. Guys, just let it go. Believe what you want to believe. But you're right, Adam. Humans have this incessant need. I don't know where it comes from. I'm sure it's some sort of evolutionary mechanism to say, look, what I believe is right.
Yeah, the intelligent design people, and they're not a monolith, but a lot of them are just doing that thing that we all do a little bit, and what Jonathan Haidt is always talking about. A lot of them are just trying to buttress the argument that they started with, which is that there is a God, that the thing they learned in church was always true. And so everything else that they do is just an attempt to look for evidence that supports that position. And maybe they're going to ignore a bunch of other evidence that refutes it. When they're at their strongest and most interesting is when they are pushing back against the over claims of the evolutionists. Because like anybody who believes in a thing, they make claims that are not substantiated, and they take to be proven things that are not proven. There's a whole lot we still don't know about how so much information gets packed into a cell or the beginning of life, and how that, if it was a bootstrapping thing rather than God making it so. There's a whole lot we don't understand about how that process must have occurred, and a lot of people who believe in Darwinism and evolution, which I do, they make claims that are not supported, and that's when ID guys are at their best. And you quickly and immediately see that when you instead don't assume that they're arguing for God, but they're introducing the hypothesis that maybe life was seeded here by other alien civilizations. Because that's the exact same argument, basically, except one's supernatural and one, okay, we invented an alien. But, we can easily imagine that since we don't know how life occurred here, that's why we invented a god to explain it, or gods, many, many, many gods over time and place. That, yeah, it could have been aliens too. And if that's the case, well, then Darwin and evolution, doesn't get us there, right? There was a seed, and you would need to explain that or understand that occurred. And if you left it out, your theory would be ridiculous. So both these ID people and traditional standard biologists, I think they both make claims to knowledge that they're not entitled to claim.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those classic fallacies that's so easily just sort of argued. I struggle with why it persists so easily. But I mean, I remember in philosophy 101 class, maybe it was a higher level class where we did sort of the 4 basic proofs for God. And one is the classic intelligent design theory. It's the watchmaker, right? You come across a beach, you find a watch, and you say, well, I don't know how this watch was made, but I know that it was made by someone else. So you see this ordered, highly advanced technological thing that just seems to be working. And because you know that watches are made by watchmakers, you then say, well, I'm looking around at the universe and the world. It's so ordered and beautiful. Well, therefore, there must have been an earth maker or a universe maker, right? But again, you're taking your preconceived notions about one thing and applying it to another thing. Just because a watch was made by a watchmaker doesn't mean a universe is made by a universe maker. They're 2 different things. One, we know how it's made, like, because we made it. We have direct knowledge of that. We don't have any knowledge about the universe, how it was made.
That's a critical distinction. With the watch, we do know how watches are made. I think you're exactly right. And there's something about humans that can't just leave it alone. They have to have an answer. They have to pick. Was it A or was it B? Not realizing that there's C through quadruple Z options that we not only not considered them, we can't imagine them. We hardly know anything about this universe, and yeah, the watchmaker. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Adam, well, this kind of talk always, I don't know why, brings up a couple of moments in that famous Phil Donahue interview with Ayn Rand. And just for the fun of it, Adam, let's hear her kind of break this down.
All right, let's hear what this crotchety old Russian immigrant has to say.
You've got to be impressed with the universe when you see order in the universe. This wasn't an accident, Miss Rand.
Oh, now you've got to give me a few minutes. What do you think would happen in a disorderly universe?
In a disorderly?
What's the concept of order? What does it have to do with the things which exist? If they clashed with each other, if there were contradictions, they wouldn't exist. There is no such thing as a disorderly universe. Our whole concept of order comes from observing reality. And reality has to be orderly because it's the standard of what exists.
Right. So
the contradictions cannot exist.
Okay, so we have an orderly universe because it's impossible to have a disorderly universe.
That's
I got
right.
that. I understood that.
Fine.
Do you understand what a breakthrough that is? That I understood that.
Oh,
all right, now examine.
Delightful.
Well, there you go, Adam. Kind of summed it up better than that.
Yeah, there's a lot I like about her, but sometimes she just says things that are tautologies. Like the universe has to be. What would it mean for a universe to be disorderly? That's not the tautology I spotted. Forget I said that. I do like the way she thinks, and I do think she's getting at something. It's more correct to notice that we have a universe that behaves in a certain way rather than making what seem like value judgments in accordance to the universe, that it is, quote, orderly or, quote, disorderly. If you look at the center of a galaxy, I bet it looks pretty disorderly, but what are we even talking about? It still operates according to the rules of this universe, except that we don't know what those rules are. So, again, what are we even talking about? And it is dumb to call things orderly when we don't understand the process, isn't it?
Order implies, even by its word order, that it was put in order.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Again, we're mapping our own
Yep.
projections
Yep.
onto something. The universe doesn't care about order.
That's right. We make order. We make our house in order. That's what
Right.
humans do. So if a universe is ordered, you've automatically smuggled into your intuition.
You smuggle it in.
An all-powerful God who can do such a thing.
Just like Rene Descartes smuggled in cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Well, what's the first part of that sentence? I. Well, I think, therefore I. You're just saying I am.
Right.
I can't think if I don't exist. So you're pre-smuggling in the concept that you're trying to somehow prove in this fancy way of talking and make it sound all smart. Leave that to the neocons and Kamala Harris and those other politicians to say flowery words that sound like they're saying something, but they're not. I'm so unburdened after the election, Adam. I gotta say, I'm feeling very unburdened.
There's something deeper there that I don't feel I'm well enough intellectually armed to tackle. But just the hubris to think that using our spoken word, we can describe something essential about the universe, seems to be like quite a stretch. As we walk around and do things, there is a universe we are acting in it. We can perceive that. But then to think that I can use my conceptual symbols that I can write on paper and speak out into the universe as to map that wholly or even in part, there's something screwed up there, and we just gloss over that fact.
Dude, this has bothered me for so long, that people think words have power. But this is an old human concept. Think of spells and magic and holy books that we write. These words have power, but they don't have power in the sense that I can say abracadabra and make a rabbit come out of a hat. It more has power in the ordering of society. So yes, in a way, words do have power because words are how we think, right? It's our programming language, if you will.
Sure.
So yes, they have power in that way, but not in the way that these mystic people have. I've met people who literally think if you use a different word to describe water, it changes its essence or something. I mean, I don't know. There's some hippy dippy people out there and stuff like that. But you're right. To think we can use these words to explain something like the universe? No.
Yeah.
We're not even close to that level of intelligence yet, folks.
Yeah, we can take a stab at it. And in certain limited dimensions, like, describing how I'm going to build the house that I'm about to build, there, and in communicating to other people. Our words do have tremendous amounts of power in the human realm. But when we're saying things like, I think, therefore I am, we're not just talking about the human realm. By definition, he's trying to talk about something supernatural or metaphysical. Right. And so I'm not trying to, please, ladies and gentlemen, don't think I don't mean words don't have power. I'm just saying that our human words, to think I can utter a few sentences or even a string of mathematical equations and therefore have concretely mapped something like metaphysics, that's just insane. we're just talking here. No matter how powerful words are, we're still just talking. We haven't been able to describe the universe.
Well, Adam, I didn't think it before, but now I know that little bee Goldilocks is a criminal. Should be locked up.
Yeah, justice for the bears. I mean, I say it every day, but I mean it.
Justice for the bears.
Justice for the bears.
All right, Adam. Well, that was fun. Take us out, man.
All right. Thank you, Tyrone. This was fun. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for putting up with us and the silly things we say with our words. Thank you, as always, for being a part of Human Nature. We will see you next time.